This is Generation Stadia, giving you that daily dose of everything and anything Stadia related, and today we have something interesting to discuss. This news is coming to us via an IGN article as well as a Bungie blog post. We'll be covering some very interesting thoughts that developers are sharing, not just about Stadia, but cloud gaming as a whole. But before we get into that, I do want to mention one other article that I thought was worth bringing up, and this one's coming to us via the 6th Axis. There was a well-written opinion piece recently on the site discussing about how Google Stadia is the best place to play The Elder Scrolls Online. And while I won't go into every single detail that they write down, they make a compelling argument, and on top of that, I think something more important's at play here. It seems like as of recent, there's been quite a bit of a shift in tide in terms of users' opinions on Stadia and cloud gaming. Slowly but surely, I'm starting to see much more talk about Google Stadia outside of our tightly knit YouTube community and the Stadia subreddit. A surprising amount of it also seems to be quite positive compared to just a little while ago. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that the PR issue is fixed because there's still a lot of hate for Stadia and cloud gaming as a whole, but there is improvement and that's always a good thing. If you want proof of this, just take a look at this comment section. It's from a recent IGN interview focused on Stadia. The most thumbed up comments seem to be pretty positive on the whole experience. Not only that, but it has a fair share amount of people describing how well it worked for them. This really is a massive improvement over what we've seen in the past, and I hope to see it continue. It's starting to look like more and more people are realizing the benefits that Stadia brings along with it. Even the article focused on ESO on Stadia brings up some very valid points, such as not having to dedicate a large amount of your hard drive space to one game. Then there's also the benefit of faster load times, being able to play the game on whatever device you want, so on and so on. But now let's move on to the next article, and this one's coming straight from Bungie. We just finished discussing about how Stadia's perception is starting to change in the public's eye, but what about developers? How do they feel about the platform? Well, this take from Bungie is a very positive one, and they're talking about how they're using cloud gaming to actually assist the development process they have during these tough times. The post itself revolves around playtesting, and it goes into quite a bit of length, but I'll try and summarize it for you here. That said, if that's a topic that interests you, do check out the article. I'll link it in the description below. It's pretty good. It starts off by discussing what playtesting is, what role it has in the game development process, and how it's normally done. But as you can expect, like most other industries, the pandemic had quite an effect on this. There was a bit of back and forth on how to deal with it and how to move forward with the testing. Ultimately, their solution was Google Stadia, and along with it came some really big benefits. Jeff Fox, who works as a testing lead, said the following. On Stadia, we can publish a build in a way that all of the instances we use automatically get the build distributed to them at the same time. We're able to very easily get a pool of up to 300 instances or so with the game ready to play at a click of a button, which is fantastic. You can't do that any other way when we're running a big studio playtest like that. Other important mentions they make are the fact that there's no physical hardware required in the studio, and you can use a variety of compatible controllers. As you can imagine, this seriously helps the testing process, especially when working from home. Now, to be clear, it wasn't all perfect. There are usual rituals that they were used to that needed to change and took some time to actually adapt to. But for the most part, they're excited and they think it's a much better process. Just listen to what Bungie's playtest coordinator Duncan had to say. This is going to change everything. We are in a new tradition just because we used to have every playtest in labs in the past. It doesn't mean we stop doing that, but the process is evolving and changing, and we need to continue to be flexible. The future is now. What we thought was impossible is definitely not the case. Those are some very telling words, and I have to say it's great to read them. I think as consumers we can easily recognize the benefits that Stadia brings us, but far too often we overlook or don't think about what this means for developers. Just seeing this post from Bungie really highlights that, and I wouldn't be surprised if other sections of development are also being improved because of this. I hope to see more articles like this get made, if not by Bungie then by other developers. I think it's super fascinating to hear how development is being improved through the cloud. And now that we've gotten a glimpse into development, how about we start looking toward the future? IGN recently made an article where they talked with plenty of developers, all of them giving their take on what 2030 would look like for the gaming landscape. And what a surprise, cloud gaming seems to be quite a topic of discussion here. As a reminder, I'll be linking the full article in the description below, but I want to highlight some key statements coming from big developers. First up is Naoki Yoshida, producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV. I think the console wars will have neared its end, and cloud gaming will have just been established as the mainstream. Technology will continue to advance, but I think that in 10 years' time, the limitation will no longer be on a hardware level and will have instead become a battle of the cloud servers. The next comment comes from Ed Beach, Civilization franchise lead designer at Firaxis. We're seeing the initial move toward cloud-based gaming now, and I'm confident it will be complete by 2030. Already, we've moved away from physical media to digital distribution. By 2030, I doubt we'll be spending much time worrying about what gaming platform we're on. That will mean a bigger, more unified potential audience for every game, and I'm sure it will be a very competitive environment. That will place the emphasis firmly on making sure developers are delivering the most compelling and innovative content. The last quote I'm gonna share with you comes from Denby Grace, executive producer at 2K, best known for Mafia 3. I think the biggest advancement in gaming technology is already upon us with cloud gaming. When it gets to the level where you're truly no longer tethered to the hardware you have at your house, when you can take your gaming experiences wherever you are in the world on whatever device you have. That's when it will really open the door to everyone and anyone being able to access the content they want whenever they want. As you can tell, many developers actually have a pretty bright outlook when it comes to cloud gaming. And this is for good reason, considering most media formats have headed in this direction already. The question on whether cloud gaming will take over the mainstream consumer base isn't so much a question of if, but when. It also brings up the question of which company is going to be the one to do it. Even today, we have major corporations trying to get involved, be it Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Sony, Nvidia, and probably a ton more. The video game industry is growing like no other, and the easier it gets to access those high quality games, the more people will start to join in. Like any other change, it'll take time before it fully processes to the main user base, and that's what we're in right now. Many gamers out there are dismissing it without even trying it, despite not knowing just how well it works. There's a lot of people who just don't think the technology is there yet, but personally, I consider this a transition period in the works. Technology is evolving faster than ever, and with additions like Starlink going up in the air already, that's really gonna have a major impact on how accessible internet is. I do think we're still a few years away before we see this all come into fruition, but when it does happen, there will be a ton of new consumers on the market. It's very easy to hand-wave this sort of future off, saying it's never gonna happen, but the truth is that these major corporations wouldn't be investing if they didn't see the dollar signs coming. Now, I can't sit here and say that Google's gonna be the one to make it go mainstream, or that they're gonna be here in 10 years' time. Frankly speaking, a decade is a long time and a lot can change in a matter of years. But at this current point in time, I do think Google has a huge step up against its competitors. Not in terms of library or the studio's own, but when it comes to the tech behind these streaming services, I definitely think they're a step above the rest right now. Second place would have to be Nvidia for me with GeForce Now. I actually think their streaming service provides a much better experience than either PlayStation Now or xCloud. It's really hard to tell where things are headed right now, but I have to say wherever they go, I'm super excited to see what comes from it. And no matter wherever it goes, I definitely want to be a part of it. I personally believe that anytime technology ends up becoming more accessible or for the masses, it's a good thing and it should be looked upon fondly. Now that pretty much summarizes everything I had to talk about today, and my goal with this video was to really point a positive light on not just Stadia but cloud gaming in general. I've always thought it's much easier to get caught up in the negative attention than to take a step back and look at all the positives something brings. And with cloud gaming, it's no different. There's a ton of negative press surrounding not just Stadia, but cloud gaming in general. And that's why I chose to showcase these articles today. It describes the positives of not just Stadia but cloud gaming for the users, developers, and the future. There is still a long way to go and there's many improvements needed to be made. But right now, we're at the very beginning. This is the start line of what can be a very exciting journey. Either way, that covers everything I have to say today. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful at all, be sure to hit that like button as it really does help the channel out. And if you're wanting more content like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. Today's end of video message is just going to be a quick reminder to stay tuned to the channel as I will be covering some more upcoming Stadia news real soon. There seems to be an influx of news going on right now, and I think we'll start to see more as we get closer to the Stadia Connect. Other than that, I just want to give you all my thanks for the continued support and watching these videos. And as always, this has been Generation Stadia, giving you that daily dose of everything and anything Stadia related. The Gen S community is over 4,400 strong and growing by the day, and until next time, I'll catch you in the clouds.